So the next workshop demo will be from Tenderly. I don't know if you guys know, Nenand, he's doing a lot of like DevRel around, do you have HDMI? So the first time that we ran we ran like Builder Night in ETH Belgrade during Belgrade in the Tenderly office, huge office, and was with Bogdan. We spoke about account abstraction, and then we said, okay, you guys are building developer tooling since a long time. You build also like a really cool snap that's today is in the allow list, and we said, okay, which workshop you guys want to run, and there we are. I don't want to spoil you the title, although it was in the agenda, but welcome. Feel free to introduce yourself, Nenand, and welcome to Builders Day.
Thank you very much. Could I get that mic? Yes, of course. So hi everybody, thank you for the warm welcome. My name is Nenand. I'm DevRel in Tenderly, and today I want to talk, and I want to demo actually, a little bit around staging. So the title of today's workshop is Build, Stage, Deploy. It's about continuous integration. But before we jump into that, let's, first about me. I used to be a software engineer, now I'm a DevRel. I still code, but that's like a part of it. I'm also a yoga teacher, and doing DevRel at Tenderly app. For those of you who don't know, Tenderly is a full stack infrastructure for dApps and teams. That means that we have like 3 major categories of stuff. The first one is development and staging infrastructure, the well-known debugger that everything started with. Why is this shaky? We also have a very rich transaction tracer, and the latest bit that we're going to focus on today, it's called virtual testnets. The second bit is around security and monitoring. So you have simulations that you can use through a visual UI, or you can integrate it through an API. There are alerts that will alert you when something goes wrong, and there's Web3 actions that automate anything you need to automate on chain. And the third pillar we can say is the node RPC that's enriched with very precise gas estimation. It's enriched with Tenderly's very deep transaction tracing. It's also enriched with the simulation RPCs. And lastly, you can build your own RPCs on that node. So this is like the quick overview and rundown of everything that comes with Tenderly. And today we're going to focus on this bit, and that's the staging and development infrastructure. So as I said, infrastructure for dApps and for teams. So the main topic here, actually before I go on, are you guys bothered with this thing shaking a little? No? Okay, so it's only me, good. Okay, so the main topic here is continuous integration. And when we say continuous integration, that sort of means that, yes, you have your Solidity, you have your JavaScript, you have your front end, you have your indexers, you have your bridges, and you would usually either test them in separation, or you wouldn't test them at all when you build stuff, because not everybody does CI, I guess. The goal and the end goal that we have is actually to have these components, to build them as a single unit, so something that's connected, to see how they behave when they are built like a real product would, and to test them out under various scenarios. So when we talk about CI, how many of you know CI? Yeah, a couple of hands, okay. Who loves CI? Yeah, same hands. Who thinks it's easy in Web3? No hands, okay. That's an indicator. So if after today we change the idea that CI is super hard, I would be really happy, but there's a long way to go. So would it be cool if you could just run a command like this saying, okay, I want a new environment, I want to call it test4, and I want it on these 2 networks or these 5 networks, and you get testing infrastructure for that. And then you activate that environment, you connect your hard hat, you connect your next, you connect your indexers, bridges, and so on, chain links as well, and then you just deploy your contracts to those networks, and you run your dApp. Wouldn't that be great? And wouldn't it be great if you could just put this in a YAML file so GitHub could do this for you? Wouldn't it be great if you could create a development environment, deploy your contracts, and send it over to people building front ends, so they can actually build on top of the latest changes? Okay, so I think we sort of have a feel for what it would be like to have that. And yeah, I'll just jump into demo and show a prototype of this in action. If somebody wants to follow along, here's a link to a little hackmd that contains the Git repository and so on. Don't follow along because you will need to log in, install some CLIs and stuff like that, but you can take it after and just try it out at home. But I'm going to do it here. Hopefully it works. Yeah, adventurous. Can you hear me with this one? Yeah. Okay, good. So I said a couple of commands, and today I will demonstrate all of this in a little scaffold ETH project that I extended. So you would have your hard hat, you would have your next, and what I added here, what should be in a CLI or in a library, is a little folder called Tenderly, and this folder actually contains just a little bunch of scripts that you just saw. So creating a new staging environment, connecting your hard hat to it, connecting Next.js, well, connecting the graph, but I didn't get to build that one out yet. And let's see how all of this works. So do you see, is the font big enough? Should I zoom it in more, or a bit, yeah? Let's go, 200. Okay, it's better. So as I said, the first command would be to create a new stage, and I will call it live, and I will add just, let's say, 2 networks. So I'm running this, and whoa, okay, I can't call it live, let me call it live 1. So what this does in the background, it actually calls Tenderly's APIs, and it creates 2 virtual testnets based on Linea and based on mainnet. So I will go back into my Tenderly dashboard, so you see there's nothing in here. And if I reload this thing, you can see that I have the live that I built previously just to test things out, and I have this one, which actually is the latest one I created. So you can see here that last interaction is just now. I created it just now. So it was that fast to create 2 chains that are not on my machine, that are on Tenderly's infrastructure. And this is super important because if you have a distributed team, and most of us do, well, in that case, you want that chain to be accessible all over the world, not on my machine, and I sort of have it only locally. So the first bit is done. I will not go through the UI here. I just want to speed through creating the whole thing, and then I will come back to the UI. So that's the first bit of creating the infrastructure. Now you can imagine you can stage stuff for local development, for staging, for, I don't know, for different purposes. So the next thing that I would need to do is run the activate thingy. I called it live 1. So this means that the latest set of networks I created becomes the configuration that will be used throughout all of these projects. And the next bit would be just to run connecting hardhat, and I will just run it here so I don't type, and connecting Next.js. So the configuration of those networks lands in hardhat and lands in Next.js. Before we go on, I will take a look at this configuration. So as you can see, it's just a little TypeScript file, and this is what was created by the API. So you get the RPC URL, you get the chain ID. It looks weird, I know, and there's the currency here. What I did here, I actually pre-pended the chain ID with a couple of digits. So you have an independent chain ID, so you avoid transaction replay attacks. So this is the original one. I just prepended there a little bit. The next step would be After all this is done, well, let's deploy the contracts. And here we go, virtual linear. So this would be the name of the network that Hardhat will recognize. So when I run this, it says nothing to compile. It's deploying the first contract, second contract, third contract. So I have 3 contracts deployed as I talk, and this is not something that you get on public testnets. So public testnets were never built for people to test things out when they're building dApps. So it takes a lot of time to actually get anything going. You don't have to wait for that long when you just want to deploy a couple of contracts. Here's first, here's the second, here's the third contract. So it's all practically there. And if you go into the contract section, there are watched and virtual contracts. You can see that I have my 3 contracts deployed in here. And by the way, they are verified in the same go. So you can actually debug them. So that was cool. And the last bit would be to just run the front end. And I have it open over here. We'll just wait for it to reload. So you can see here that this is the virtual network. I have 0 ETH. Let's fix that. So I'm going to grab funds from Faucet. I click this little button, and when I reload, I already have 100 test ETH. So the trick here is that what we built in virtual testnets are the infinite faucets. So you can add any address, any arbitrary amount of ETH, and you get it instantly. But more importantly, you can also use a random ERC20 token, so you can actually fund your assets in a very speedy way. I don't have any of those deployed on this one, but that's, yeah, I'm not going to demo it. You probably know what it would look like. And to come back to the UI, let's actually create a token. And let's do this. So transaction completed successfully. I think this was less than 2 seconds. So if I go back to the dashboard, you can see the transaction here. Now, I just want to touch base on the other stuff that's available in testnets. So if I click, if I open this transaction, you will get like a full stack trace. Now, this is a very shallow stack trace, so there's nothing in there. But you get to see everything that was executed there. You get to see all the events that were emitted throughout the transaction. You get to see all the state changes decoded. Okay, this doesn't have that much state changes in there, but you can imagine very complex mappings of structs and all of that. We can show actually the tiniest bits of those changes as they happen. So you get to do all of this, and you actually get to jump into a debugger, so you can move through the transaction trace. Unfortunately, shallow transaction, not much to show, but you can actually see all the inputs decoded. You can, yeah, this is the creation of token. We don't care about this one, but you actually get to see all inputs of the function decoded. You get to see the changes in balances and so on and so on. So in a way, this is the development infrastructure and development tooling for teams and dApps, but primarily teams. And when I say it's infrastructure for teams and dApps, there are 2 things that are important here. One thing is called state sync, which allows you to actually continuously synchronize the testnet to the mainnet. So let's say an Oracle changes in mainnet, that change will be immediately propagated and visible on your testing infrastructure. Unless you write to that particular slot of that contract, then that's your value, and we're not going to sync over it anymore. The other interesting bit is the public explorer. So I can actually share this with all of you. You don't need a Tenderly account. You don't need to log in. This is like, yeah, just a transaction explorer, and you can actually see all of these things. Well, I'm logged in, so I see all of it. But you can actually see all the transactions, and you get a public view, or let's say a small ether scan for your testnet. So there's that. And yeah, sorry, how much time? Am I good on time? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know this was a lot to take in, so I would actually like to ask you guys, do you have any questions before I switch over to to the other bit.
I mean, very good talk as well. Very useful. I can imagine our teams using this tool. So have you thought, like, is it possible instead of deploying and everything, upgrading like smart contracts in the CI? Like, do you have as well, do you support that? Because in the CI that you have, you deploy all the smart contracts again, and you have a new environment. But is it possible to, is it possible that instead of deploying all the new smart contracts, you just upgrade all the smart contracts that you have in the previous environment?
Upgrade it as in if it were a proxy, or
yes, if you
yeah,
have.
of course. I mean, you don't need to create new infra every single time. If you have proxies, then you can replace those implementations.
Okay, so in the CI you can keep the previous.
Yeah, exactly. But if I mean the point of this is to show that you can have completely reproducible deployments from 0 to 1, because you will deploy it that way when you go to the public network, right?
Yes. Yeah. It is a pain in the ass, like to deploy. Like if you want to have a new environment for the front end with new things. Yeah. So in this, you also show that it's possible to deploy the graph here, the graph. Like in this, you support that, right?
No, the support is not out there yet. So my mission is to actually work with all the indexers and bridges and every single off-chain component, that we can find a way to stage all of that, so we can have like complete staging of everything that a dApp can consist of.
No, yeah, I think it's a very, very good product. And then what's the pricing, or how it works? Like if you maybe you can elaborate on this, or is it public?
Yeah, the feature is public, so you just need an account and you can start using it. For the time being, the pricing is very generous, and builders who want to try it out, they can do crazy stuff. But we're building out pricing as we speak, so at some point you will find it on our website fully.
Perfect, thank you.
We good? Awesome. Cool. So, big round of applause. Thank you so much. Was it good? Oh, yeah, go for it. Yeah, no, you can do another 2-3 minutes if you want.
So, okay. And I need the projector. Okay. Yeah. So just to talk a little bit about how teams organize. So this is from Maker, who was one of our early adopters of the technology. What they have are the teams that are very segregated between themselves. So they don't work that much together. They have strict boundaries. So the basically how they use this is they have a smart contract developers who deploy their contracts, send it over to front-end devs, back-end devs, and data devs, so everybody can work on the latest changes. And this was especially important for data people, because they don't want to see my trash front-end transactions and my trash front-end data in their data set, so they don't have to deal with that kind of stuff, because when you're building front-end, you're just sending stupid stuff to the network and polluting everything. And the last bit was about state sync that we just saw. And essentially, what I wanted to touch upon is that this is the technology that's very helpful for various stages of building. So when you integrate with third-party protocol and create and build stuff, then when you build CI and let's say internal staging or external staging for community testing and stuff like that, and finally when you're securing and deploying your dApp. So it practically enables a lot of things. So besides third-party protocol integration, CI pipelines, enabling automated testing and continuous delivery in Web3, which is something that's really hard to put together. There's also an ability, you can actually deploy a whole dApp for a product demo for VCs, let's be honest, or for beta testing, or any kind of testing for that matter. And one cool thing that actually popped up as we went is that auditors really like that, because they would actually like to get contracts deployed. They don't want contracts without deploy scripts. They want to see contracts deployed so they can play around, interact with that, and be able to have high volumes of money they can use to create attack vectors and build proof of concepts. So this is pretty handy technology for that crowd as well. And now I have some animations. Everything's jittery here. Okay. Let's move on. So yeah, to recap, we touched upon this development and staging infra. There's security and monitoring stuff, so everything you need to either preemptively or reactively secure your dApps and the Node RPC. So thank you very much. Now's the time, and if you have any questions, I'll be around.
Awesome. Thank you so much.